Sometimes if you make smaller promises in your marketing, you'll sell more stuff, a lot more. Now, I know that sounds weird, but the very first sentence that I said made a really big promise, but it contained one word, and that one word is probably why you haven't immediately bailed and gone to watch something else yet. I'll tell you what the one word is and why it works in a minute, but first, let me tell you what we're going to do in this video. You're going to discover a forgotten psychological principle that was discovered in 1966 that basically makes it where you can overcome and override your prospect's natural resistance to your promotion. So you're going to discover the tactic, how it works. I'm going to show you some examples of it, and then I'll show you how to use AI to apply it to your own stuff. You ready? Let's go. Okay, so there was this tomato ad of all things, and this ran forever, like in print media for years, and it just kept working until it didn't work anymore. By the way, I learned about this ad from infomarketingblog.com, so thank you, Lawrence Bernstein, for your contribution to our community. Wonderful blog to learn about copy. Anyway, this thing quit working out of the blue. So they're like, man, what do we do? Because, the business kind of depended on it. So they changed the ad from, this is the best darn tomato I've ever tasted. And here's the switch they made. This could be the best darn tomato I've ever tasted. The use of that one word, could, made the ad start working again. And that one became the new control, and it ran for years and years and years. And there are a couple of things weird about this, because first of all, it went from making a big promise to making no promise, really like making a maybe. And the second weird thing is it kind of goes like the opposite direction of what most marketers, myself included, think we're supposed to do, which is to make like the biggest, boldest promise we possibly can to grab people's attention. The thing is, however, that there's a ton of research that shows that doesn't work. I mean, clearly it can, but there's a much better way to do it. So here's the research. Back in 1966, there was a psychologist named Jack Brehm who discovered this thing called the Psychological Reactance Theory. I don't know why they don't name these things something that's easier to say on video, but whatever. Essentially, what the theory found was that if we make a statement to somebody in absolute terms, like this is the best, or you need to do this, or this is the only way to do this, or always do it this way, our brains will push back, and so will your prospects. It's like normal human nature. Not because whatever you're saying is wrong or untrue, but the brain is like, hey, you can't tell me what's real. You can't tell me what to do. I'm going to resist this just because you're telling me what to do. So it fights against it. And a lot of times it has this thing, and this dude called it the Boomerang Effect, where they'll end up doing the opposite. It'll totally backfire on it. So that's why if we say stuff like, this is the best thing ever, and you need to buy it right now, and you better get it, or else, you're dumb. That doesn't work as well, which, if you've tried it, you've probably noticed it. And if you're getting marketed to that way, you probably don't like it. Well, it's because of this psychological reactance theory. When our brains hear these big, bold claims, they have a natural tendency to push back and do the opposite, which is why, going back to the beginning of this video, I used one word. Remember? I'll tell you what the one word is. It was sometimes. I said, sometimes if you make less promises, you'll sell more stuff. If I would have said, if you make more promises, you'll sell more stuff, you'd have been less likely to watch. And if I said it even more demonstratively, make more promises and you'll sell more stuff, even more likely to leave. And if I would have said, the reason you're not selling as much stuff is because you're making too many promises, even more reason for you to leave. But I did what's called cushioning the claim. I made that easier for the brain to accept by just adding the word sometimes, which has the benefit of being true. Sometimes this stuff works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you just need to be bold and make big promises. So let's go back to the tomato ad. All right, so the original one said, this is the best darn tomato I've ever tasted, and it's absolutely the easiest tomato to grow. All right, and then we saw the way they fixed it. So they added this one word. This could be. I don't know why they changed the font. It's weird. But anyway, this could be the best darn tomato, yada, yada, yada. And it's one of the easiest tomatoes to grow. Now, look at that sentence. And it's one of the easiest tomatoes to grow, as opposed to it's absolutely the easiest tomato to grow. They just used that same technique twice in the ad, and just those subtle, tiny little changes, by promising less and being like less certain, made it start working again, which is cool. And another thing that's cool is you can do this really easily, and you don't have to do it just with your headlines and stuff. For example, I've done this a lot in my book campaigns. I have a new one coming out soon, so get ready. This is one from my convert book, and I did the exact same thing in my consulting book, which was have like a kind of moderate promise up here, but instead of this part where people are, typically going to make giant promises and make huge claims, instead, I put a disclaimer and said, hey, most people that buy books don't do anything, and if you're not willing to take action and take risk, don't get this book. That's a classic example of using, I had to go back and find it, the psychological reactance theory in modern day online advertising. It's used again in my email stuff, and this works really well. So I have a software app called Ojoy.ai. I know you're probably surprised. I only talk about it in every single YouTube video. And when I use email to promote it to my list, instead of saying, hey, this is the greatest thing ever, I will do two things to overcome that psychological reactance thing. Number one, I'll make it really obvious this is not for everybody. Only read this if you're getting sales. So that kind of throws people off because I'm not saying this is for everybody. And then I again say this is really only helpful to people who have existing businesses. And then again, I'll say, if that sounds like you, I think you're absolutely going to love this. And then this email right here, let's say, move things around for us so it's easier to read on screen there. Here we go. All right, this one is the same thing. This might not be for you, which is fine. All right, that immediately, before we even tell them about the promotion, that subject line builds intrigue. Well, how do you know? And it also lowers that defense mechanism in the brain that dude, Jack Brehm, discovered when we say things in absolute terms. So what's cool is we can definitely use this in headlines and stuff, but you can use it in the intro part of your sales letter. I like doing it there. I also don't like to make too crazy headlines. It's really good in emails because it lowers the defenses before the click happens. And you can also use it in your ads and content. As a matter of fact, let me show you an example. Here's a YouTube video that did pretty well recently, and I deliberately used this not for beginners angle right here in the subject line of it. And I also say it in the beginning of the video. So that softens their resistance to everything else I'm going to say because I'm kind of disqualifying the wrong people. This whole be honest and stuff in your advertising is pretty effective. Who would have ever guessed? So let's have some fun with it, all right? I built a little prompt, and I'll pull it up for you here. Let's see. So you can take a screenshot of that if you feel like it, and we'll do the old copy and paste, and we will pull up Ojoy.ai. Now, Ojoy is the software that I'm shamelessly plugging because my family owns it. And this is for people who want to write words and stuff and make that real easy, but they're not naturally good at doing words and stuff. So it helps you write copy and come up with ideas. So I'm going to take this prompt and paste it here, hopefully. There we go. And I'm using a tool called Project Papillon. This is our all-purpose kind of heavy lifting tool for Ojoy. It's like Claude, basically, but on steroids. And I just made this prompt before creating this video. And what this is designed to do is to ask you, what are people going to be skeptical of? What's possibly going to trigger that, psychological reactance thing in their brain? And then you answer it, give it your copy, and it'll, work its magic. So first thing I'll do is I'll give it my copy. And I'm just literally going to copy and paste the sales copy from Ojoy.ai here. So first I'll just go, here's my sales letter, and then I'll answer your questions in a minute. You don't have to type anything, which is wonderful. You can just paste stuff and talk to it, and it's good. Now, it won't ask me a ton of questions using this prompt because I just told it to ask a few, so I'll just work through it with you. Well, the headline says something like create a brilliant marketing campaign with just one sentence. So my prospects have probably tried AI before, and they might not believe that because they've been unsuccessful using other AI tools. Let's see. Generally speaking, they're probably very skeptical of using AI as a copywriting tool in general because it sounds really robotic. So that would also be something that they'd be, hesitant about. And I don't know if they're skeptical of this, but they need to know it. And that is, the tool works really well, but you do have to give it like information about your product, and you have to actually talk to it in order for it to do a really good job. It's not psychic. So if they expect AI to be psychic mind readers or something, it's going to be better than nothing, but it's not going to be as good. Okay, so you don't have to ramble on like that, but notice that I'm not having to sit here and type up a long prompt or anything like that. The whole purpose of Ojoy is to make it where everything's easier and faster. So the stuff that sucks that you don't like doing becomes something that's like easy and is kind of fun doing. So anyway, it's like, okay, cool, yada, yada, yada. Who do you not want as a customer? Okay. I want people who have businesses and want to use AI to create copy and content. I do not want people that don't have businesses and they're just messing around and that they're just like curious and they want to see what it is, but they don't actually want to use it. So really the person I want to get rid of, but not literally, is like business opportunity seekers, funnel hacker people that don't really have businesses that are just goofing off. That's who I don't want. Alrighty, that sounded delightful. I'm now a very friendly person, and it did it. Wow, this is awesome. So it's given me a lot of ideas. Man, this is so important about AI. Always add your own intelligence to what AI suggests. Like some of this is cool, and some of it, I don't know if I agree with it. And like that's going to be every AI ever. So don't blindly do what AI tells you to do. But this is pretty cool. It's saying like, hey, instead of saying it's so good, you think it was written by a pro, maybe say something a little more calm down, like it won't sound like you copy pasted from ChatGPT because you didn't. I like that, and it tells you why. This is another cool one. The more you tell it, the better it gets, which is why lazy people hate it. That'll get me that repelling the people that I don't want kind of thing. Then it gave me a great idea about, instead of saying people love this because it's easy to use, which is what everybody says, it's easy to use if you're willing to have a conversation. If you want a magic button, this isn't it. I like that. I might use it. And I like this too for the opening section after the headline. Instead of just start with one sentence and get sales letters and social posts and stuff, I could start with one sentence, then actually talk to it about your business. Yeah, you have to participate, but that's exactly why it doesn't sound like every other AI tool you've tried. That's pretty cool, especially because Project Papillon isn't our copywriting tool. So we can make all of this stuff sound better and read like real copy. So I like most of this right here. I'm not too crazy about how it's suggesting I change the headline, though. This, by the way, I cannot yet beat the sales page for the control. It's awesome, but I'm trying to. So it's saying, hey, you should change this. And when I change this to stuff, I just haven't been able to successfully beat it. But one thing, I didn't tell you this, is one way that you can cushion a claim and reduce skepticism is to turn it into a question. So I might just take this headline and say, can you really turn one sentence into a brilliant marketing campaign? Question mark. And that would lower the defenses because I'm not making that bold, direct, absolute claim, And then I can put that suggested subhead under it. So that's likely what I'll do. But let's just say, just to kind of show you again how you can use this, that we wanted to implement some of what it said. All right, so what I did, and I didn't include this in the recording because it would have been boring, is I basically was like, okay, here's the stuff that I want to change. And then I said, I want you to take everything I told you and instead of rewriting anything, just write instructions for what part of the sales letter that I would replace with your suggestions. All right, so now it's got it. And all I have to do now, all right, is I can just copy this and I can go to our copywriting tool. Now notice it's just telling me what to replace in my sales letter. So I can go to our copywriting tool, and the name of the tool is Project Shepherd. And here's what I can say. I want you to make these changes to the sales letter that I'm about to give you. I'll paste the sales letter itself below the changes that I want you to make. And then I just want you to give me a version that includes the changes. All right. So I just pasted the suggested changes, and now I'll say, and here is the actual sales letter that I want to apply these changes to. And while it's decoding my rambling, let's do the old copy paste here. And where are we? There we go. I always put a little space there. I don't think it matters, but I'll make it look cool. I like to put brackets. Don't know if it matters with the brackets or not. Okay, boom. So now it's got all that stuff in there. So it wrote it for me, but I'm just telling it to make it where it's a little bit easier to read, just so I can show you. So here's our headline, and of course, when we put it on a web page, we'll center it and all that kind of stuff. So now I've turned it into a question. And now I've got that new subhead. So one sentence starts it, a real conversation finishes it. It won't sound like you copy pasted from ChatGPT because you didn't. So we're changing this part right here with that. It's pretty cool. We've got our 3 steps. And then in the if you were happy part, we have this change. Start with one sentence, actually talk to it. And I'm going to tell it to change this a little bit. So I forgot about that. This one sentence here, I don't like the tone of it. Rewrite it so it goes along with the rest of the letter better. Give me 4 or 5 alternate ways to say that. And it gave me other ways to say that. It just sounds a little bit nicer. So we have that change. We also have this change right by the video itself. So that change right here, it's easy if you're willing to have a conversation. That goes here, right here. All right. And then the one that we just talked about, where we're rewriting this one, we rewrote this one to sound friendlier. I can't talk today. That one, that little change goes here. And those were the only changes I decided to keep. So now I have something I can test and split test my existing page against this cushioned page and see which one works better. I'll keep you in the loop. But that's how you use the ancient psychological principle from 1966 to soften the claim, make people less resistant to what you're trying to help them with, and hopefully sell more stuff. If you want to try Ojoy.ai, I strongly recommend it. You can do it for free trial at, of all places, Ojoy.ai. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.